Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. Today's guest is a gentleman by the name of Richie Mcpeak. We've been friends for a few years now. Incredible human, incredible man, great entrepreneur. He had one of the first supplement gummy companies back in the 90s. He built a really successful business, scaling this gummy brand to all the Publixes and a bunch of other retailers. Just really smart guy, passionate about supplements and building a strong immune system. So we talk a bit about immunity and what that has and how that's involved with COVID and what we're dealing with now, as well as we get into some deeper and more challenging conversation that I'm hopeful can be beneficial for listeners, right? That's why I do this show, not only for my own gain and own benefit, but if I can make a difference in other people's lives, I hope I can. And so he's actually had a rare form of cancer. He's getting his leg amputated very soon, and a few years back he lost one of his children, Connor, to suicide. So we talk about that. Mental health is a really big challenge that so many people are going through in this country, myself included. So many young people, I feel like, especially. So we talk about what that was like and what it felt like going through that, and what that experience was, and if he has recommendations for people that have family members that are going through really tough times. So really impactful conversation. I'm hopeful everybody that listens will get a lot out of it. And like always, I do these. I don't monetize this podcast at all. If you enjoy it, I greatly appreciate if you share, rate 5 stars, share the episode with your friends, tell your friends about it. Enjoy the show.
This is Openly Outspoken with Jeremy Adams, where differing opinions are not only accepted, they're encouraged.
We are live. Thanks for coming on, Richie.
Thank you.
So I know we were just talking about a little bit before we went live, and would love for you to share. You obviously are going through potentially having a really big operation in the next couple weeks. Do you mind kind of sharing what's going on there?
Or different diseases make a lot of decisions for us. And as an entrepreneur and even starting your podcast, you want to try to make some of your own decisions on the direction that you want to go. And cancer was making a lot of those for me. So I kind of drew a line and said, I'm going to make this decision. I chose to amputate my leg because of the surgeries and the infections and the other issues. And so we had some things come up that kind of expedited that. So there's been a couple postponements, but it looks like December 16th is the date that they're going to amputate in Moffitt. And I'm ready mentally and physically. Well, as ready as you can be to voluntarily have your leg cut off.
Yeah. No, that's insane, man. Like, how do you best put into words like the feeling you have for getting a limb amputated? Like, what is that like?
No, that's hard to put in words, but fear is the first word that comes to mind. And a lot of people don't want to talk about fear. When I first thought about losing this leg, because I wanted to hang on to it for the last 6 years, and I fought so hard to hang on, and I felt like maybe I'm just banging my head against a brick wall. And then overcoming the fear, realizing that you don't know what you don't know, right? So I don't know what the journey is ahead with the leg that's been amputated above the knee. But I look at so many of our servicemen and women, and I look at, so many military personnel. And also there's been cancer patients before me, cancer warriors, fighters, specifically this beautiful human being that reached out to me. Her name's Brittany Simons, and she had her leg amputated above the knee and shared with me some of what that journey might be like. So I think fear and apprehension, and it reminds me a little bit kind of the journey we've been on as entrepreneurs and some of the things we've done. We don't know how it's going to turn out. All we can do is move forward one step at a time, make the best decisions we can as leaders, surround ourselves with an amazing team, and then the rest, we try to create our own luck or our own success.
Yeah. Looking back, like at everything you've had to go through, like with, because I imagine it's been quite a bit of work to keep the leg as healthy as it has been, right? And just like, would you do it all over again, knowing what you know now? Would you go through the same battle?
Listen, I probably could have done it a little better. When I first had my limb salvage surgery, they were like, go home and rest. And so I promised my daughter at the time, who was 10, she stayed with me for 400 hours while I went through chemotherapy, 96 hours at a time. I promised her we were going to go out west and see the Grand Canyon and travel. And so when I got released from my limb surgery, limb surgery, I can't even say that. It took 6 years to say that. After the surgery, we packed our SUV and we traveled out west for 17 days. I put my feet up against the window in the back in the third row, and we traveled through Louisiana, Texas. We saw the Grand Canyon. We went to Las Vegas and saw Hoover Dam. We went to Zion National Park, and we just wanted to live. Now, it was absolute hell on my leg and probably caused some more issues, but I wanted to try to balance, figure out how to live and how to take care of the leg. And kind of the second thing I did that didn't really help, we had at the time, we had a gummy supplement company, and there was a huge show, Expo West, out in California, the largest natural food show in the world. And you know how big convention centers are, miles and miles. I went out there on a walker with my son, Connor, and he was, I think, in his early 20s and first show ever. So I'm like, Connor, you're running the show. Just smile and wave. Yeah. I'm going to sit down. And I walked on this walker for days, for hours, and caused some issues, more infection, more swelling. But I kind of pushed it. So, Jeremy, I think looking back, I tried everything I could to save the leg and have an active life. And would I do it again? I really don't know that question. I'm 50-50. Maybe I should have had it amputated, but I had this incredible surgeon and doctor who said the best thing we can do right now is save your leg. And I think there were some studies about the sarcoma coming back versus keeping the leg versus cutting off the leg. But I also look at on this 6-year journey, I've done the best that I can, the most work that I can with the leg. And I don't really know if I would have amputated before that. I think I had to get to that point.
Yeah. I know it's obviously not an easy question to answer. I was just curious because I know, even when we met up a little, when was that, last week?
Right.
You were having some pain and stuff, so I know it's been quite a journey for you. You also, because I know a lot of people that have had COVID, most of them around my age, some of them older. I've known some 50s, 60s, and even a couple 70s that have had it. None of them extremely serious, except my ex had a grandfather in her 80s pass away of COVID. And you had a very intense experience with COVID-19 recently as well. Can you describe what you went through there? Because just based off of your history with cancer, you were by definition a little bit more of a vulnerable community. What happened with COVID?
Well, just for the record, I'm not in my 70s and 80s, although I look like. Yeah. But I turned 50 this year, and grateful for every breath. But I had, I think, what you consider a very severe case of COVID. And honestly, I thought, this might be the end. Like, I beat cancer and growing up being an idiot many times, but maybe COVID is the end. It hits like a freight train that just runs you over and over and over. And I found it very strange. It attacks, it seems like, every part of your body at once. I had 104, 105 fever, I think 7+ days. They packed me in ice. So, when you have a fever and you're freezing anyways and shivering, and then they bring in ice packs and cover you in those, that's a whole nother level of torture. Your teeth shattering and your bones aching. And then my kidneys started failing, and the pain from kidneys in the back and the side, I can't even describe it. And at the same time, I got pneumonia and I had fluid in my lungs, and I couldn't breathe. It was like a truck literally was sitting on top of my chest. Some of the strangest things was the hallucinations and the nightmares. They seem like they're so real. I was sure I was floating in the ocean around the world, seeing all of these views. And then when I would wake up, I was still in the hospital. I'm like, how is this possible? I was just in Tahiti, seeing trees, palm trees go by. I admittedly thought, how bad can this really be? I've had cancer. I've had most of my leg cut off. I did chemotherapy. I had the flu once. It was worse than I could have ever imagined. But the great part is I made it out of there. I beat it. And I think there were a couple of reasons. One, I just took it one breath at a time. It came down to saying, all I have to do is make it to my next breath. I think also, in some sense, we create a little bit of our own luck. I'd always been really healthy. I ran, I worked out, I tried to eat healthy. And before COVID, I was loading up on vitamin D. I was taking 10,000 IUs. I was loading up on C, on zinc, ginger, turmeric, mushrooms, and trying to eat as healthy as possible and stay as healthy as possible. And I think that was a part also. And when I was discharged, they actually sent me home. I still had 102 fever, and I still had pneumonia. But they're like, there are people worse than you. We need to get in here. Are you okay to go home? And I'm like, absolutely. I was done with 10 days of being alone in a hospital, sweating, fevers, pain. And they said, the doctors and the nurses said, when you go home, load up on vitamin D and zinc and C. And they didn't know I was already doing that. So, it was an experience, Jeremy, that I wouldn't wish on anybody. It was a just horrible experience. But I believe we can all make it through that experience together, the mildest cases and the most severe cases.
Yeah. Why? That's crazy you went through that. Why do you feel, and we can talk about like government policy here in a minute, because I know we agree on a lot of things there. But why do you feel from government and health leadership there isn't a bigger focus on vitamins and exercise and the quality of food you eat? Because I'm 100% convinced, and there's also data to support this, but part of the reason why we have as many deaths as we do in America is we're just an unhealthy country. And there's been a lot of really, really smart nutritionists and people that I've listened to that say you can change the quality of your immune system in a matter of a couple weeks with changing your diet, getting some basic daily activity, taking some supplements and things like that. Why don't you think our leadership during COVID, it's all about just like stop the spread, wear your mask, but there's so little talk about how we can really make our bodies healthier and build up our immune systems, which in all actuality is all we can control, right? We can't control if someone next to us has the virus and sneezes on us. Like if they do it, you can't control it, but we can control our own health. Why don't you think that's a bigger discussion?
That's a great question. And when we had lunch last week, we talked about, and you actually said that about taking the conversation one step further. And I agree completely. There are very simple ways that are proven scientifically, researchers, doctors, nutritionists, vitamin D. It's a simple way to increase your vitamin D and get vitamin D to everyone, and everyone can incorporate that into their diet. And if they can't, let's find ways to get them vitamin D. C, vitamin C, zinc. There are proven vitamins and minerals within our foods and within our supplements that boost your immune system. That, to your point, you can change your lifestyle and your immune system by incorporating these into your diet. I, I don't have the answer why government is, and it baffles me why they're demanding everyone wear face masks. And some people may, and some people may not. I don't think you can legislate uh, people to make good personal decisions. If they could, America would be a different place. The world would be a different place. And I think you look at government leaders, they are fallible too. They want to spend time with their family. They want to go out to the French Laundry and eat. They want to travel. They want to do the same things everybody else does. So I think we have these, some people have these expectations that government officials are perfect and they're going to tell us, what's best for us. But are they doing what's best for us by example, on some of the things they're doing? And I don't believe it's what's best for us to promote lockdowns and masks and others without including how we can improve our immunity through vitamin D, zinc, diet, exercise. Because to your point, that's something everybody can do. And if they can't, then I know we can create programs that people are able to do that.
Yeah, I just find it so baffling, especially because there's so many studies. Or a couple thoughts on what you just said. We look at these government leaders like they're perfect and they make these really smart decisions, but I would like a lot of people advising like a DeSantis, which thankfully we live in Florida and we're almost completely open. I'm like really grateful to be in Florida, and apparently so are a lot of other people because people are moving to Texas and Florida at record rates right now. Uh,
Normally we're the armpit of the world and
yeah,
everybody.
now everybody loves it. We're no state income tax, near the water, and we're open from COVID. I mean, that's fantastic. But the people that are advising these government positions too. I mean, they're just like in many cases just really low income, low skilled government workers, and I just don't. We put so much faith in these people, and the same with Dr. Fauci. Like Dr. Fauci's a doctor, but he's not a government decision maker. Like you can't just dictate government policy based on what a doctor is saying. Like a government leader has to take all of those things into account. The government leader says, okay, there's going to be some deaths and sickness from COVID. Uh, there's also going to be hurt mental health issues, sickness from lockdowns. Like, let's just try to balance. And that's why I appreciate Florida and is, okay, let's do our best to protect the most vulnerable. Not perfect. I think that's one area that the whole country could have done better is protect the really vulnerable people. I think we dropped the ball there. But to just act like COVID is the only thing going on and there's no consequences for like California is locking down for almost another month. There's no stimulus in place for all these quote unquote non-essential businesses that can't open, like restaurants and salons and things that employ millions of people in California. They just can't be open for the next month, and that to me is just baffling. I think America was founded on individual choice and individual responsibility, and I don't believe there's a person in the country that walks around and doesn't have awareness of the risk with COVID at this point. Now, I just don't know why it's even that complicated of a conversation. The only argument that I'm somewhat open to is that we gotta keep hospital capacity at a reasonable level. But assuming hospital capacity is at a reasonable level, which most areas of the country it is, ICUs and hospitals regularly operate at a high capacity because they're a business and they're trying to like pay their bills. So it's not like they're like empty and just like, hey, I have all this room for COVID patients. As long as hospitals can treat people, I think it should be on individual choice. What are your thoughts on that?
Those are a lot of great questions and thoughts, and I agree with you on many of those. I'm not a doctor, I work with doctors, I work with nutritionists, food scientists, manufacturers. So I can't make the recommendations doctors make, and I don't understand some of those. But I do understand as a human being and a consumer, and someone who has battled cancer that can kill you, someone who has battled COVID that can kill you. And one of the things I've tried to do and share with others and educate others is there are ways that we can increase our body's immune system. There are ways that we can improve our health with simple supplements and foods, vitamin D, zinc, C. And if clearly just wearing a mask in lockdowns don't seem to be working, then, your earlier question, why aren't we addressing and why aren't government officials and doctors and others, and there are some that are saying, the power of vitamin D and zinc and C and ginger and turmeric, also melatonin, but exercise and eating properly as well. And I think to your point, you know, I believe all human beings strive for goodness, and we're all doing the best we can.
Yeah.
And we all understand how dangerous COVID is. But I don't think it's fair to the majority of at least people in the U.S. That do not have the same pre-existing conditions and risks with COVID that I do. I don't think it's fair for me to ask them to lose their home, to lose their business that is their life, to be isolated and face depression and anxiety and suicide. That's not fair of me to ask. But I think what a fair ask is when we talk about what's fair in America. I think what a fair ask is people take personal responsibility for COVID. I believe every restaurant owner and bar owner and business owner, by goodness, is protecting themselves and the people around them from COVID. I think what a fair ask is, are you adding vitamin D and zinc and C and exercising? Those are things that we give people the personal choice and opportunity to do, rather than saying, we're locking you down. You must wear a mask in your house. You can't have more than 6 people over, because if that was working, it would be working. And I still believe we should have the fundamental choices to make good decisions and find ways that are simple ways and effective and also cost effective to improve our immune system and our health. Those are, some of the thoughts I've had when I watch all these people and I see all the studies now of anxiety and depression and suicide. And, I started a business in 2006, and for 13 years, it was a global brand. We made a difference in a lot of consumers' lives. And in 2017, I walked away from that business and, was crushing to my spirit, to my immune system, to my mind. It took me probably, I would say, a full 2 years to recover from walking away from the brand that I founded.
Yeah.
So I deeply understand the loss and the anxiety and the depression that people are facing, losing everything they have, and the fear of losing everything you have. I think maybe possibly greater than it looks like the statistics of the loss of COVID.
Yeah. I mean, do you feel like two things? Do you feel that the death total exposes how unhealthy America is? I mean, we all know how unhealthy America is, but it really puts a magnifying glass under it, in my opinion. Do you agree? And also, yeah, kind of to what you're saying, we've created this culture, and again, I think it's been shifting because people are starting to really get over this shit and defy orders, which is fantastic. But like creating, so telling somebody to not leave their home, creating fear, which ruins the immune system. The stress is horrible for immune system. They're not leaving their house, so they're ordering more takeout, which is obviously typically lower quality food from a nutrition standpoint. And then what I read a study showing that because of lockdowns and school closures, the young people were actually going and like moving back in with their parents and the more vulnerable community, and actually just spreading it, and it like made things worse in certain cases. Rather than kids being at a college dorm, they go back to home where they live with parents in their 40s, 50s, grandparents in 60s and 70s, and they were actually bringing it back to them that way. What are your, I know I just keep asking about your questions, so bear with me. I just have a lot of thoughts coming to my mind. What are your thoughts on that? I just feel like there's so many negatives and there's data to back it up. So it's just like, and again, I'm pretty libertarian, and I make that very clear. I lean left on things. I'm conservative on things, but the Democrats, allegedly the party of science, there's so much science and data that just say there's so many bad things going on with, and again, most places are transitioning out of lockdowns or have been. Unfortunately, there are a few areas going backwards, which I think is really bad, but it just, there's so much other damage it creates just to prevent spread of a disease that really only affects a portion of the population. Like that seems so fucking crazy to me, honestly.
No, I'm with you. And I think to start your very first question, absolutely, America is a very unhealthy nation for the most part. I think we're making some small strides in strides. But it all starts with our food. And that is a whole other discussion on its own on who's responsible for putting out healthy food or creating healthy food. But when you look at American consumers and products and ingredients, for a very long time, everything was full of sugars and dyes and colorings and trans fats.
What do you think of school lunches? What do you think of the quality of our school lunches in the United States?
Well, all the teachers normally love my kids, so I hope I don't upset a lot of people. But, that's actually one of the reasons I started my brand. I was having lunch with my son Connor, who was in kindergarten, and all the kids' lunch, we brought him fruits and vegetables, and the majority of the kids' lunch was on a styrofoam plate, and everything was brown, and there was no colors to anything. And then I was watching a lot of kids reading packaged at the time Lunchables and other stuff, and I realized I think I saw two kids at those long tables with 100 kids. Maybe 5% of them had fruits and vegetables on the table. And we know the power of fruits and vegetables and spices. So that's when actually at that point, I thought it was my responsibility as a father to find some way to change that. And we created organic gummy supplements with fruits and vegetables and spices. So the very reason I started a company was having lunch with my son Connor in kindergarten and looking at school lunches. And that's a whole other story. But to your point, I think, we're all faced with what I call storms in our lives. And they vary from different degrees. And, I know people have asked the question, well, if you were so healthy and you ate mushrooms and ginger and turmeric, and I was a vegetarian for a year, and then I exercised and I got a rare cancer, how did that happen? They say it's a biological misfire, but I don't know exactly how I got this sarcoma, but I know how I survived it. I was prepared for that storm by eating as healthy as I could, exercising, trying to have as little fear and stress in my life. Although, as an entrepreneur, running your own company is a lot of stress.
Yeah.
And I felt the same way with COVID. I don't know if I would have survived COVID had I been obese or had I not exercised or tried to eat healthy as possible. And certainly, I know some people are obese because of disease or other issues, but we do have a weight and other issues and problems in the U.S. And a lot of that is based on the foods we eat, the foods that are available. So then when you add into your point about the lockdowns, and you see a lot of restaurants closing that are farm to table, that serve, fruits and vegetables and fresh fish and meats, and even plant-based restaurants. And the only ones left open to deliver are fast food restaurants. Late at night, people are stuck at home. They're now eating, fast food that has 40 grams of sugar and 50 grams of saturated fat, or whatever those numbers are. Now you have compounded the problem even greater than going back to the very thing we opened with and you opened with is, why isn't there a focus on the things we can do through diet, supplementation, exercise, and letting people make personal choices to improve their immune system mentally and physically, to your point that we know what stress can do to the immune system.
Yeah, stress is horrible.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, we feel it in our bodies, right? We feel when we're super stressed. As you were talking about all this healthy food, Richie, I was just envisioning some Taco Bell. Like some, I haven't been in a few months actually. I've been craving it. So are you saying for school lunches that pizza and chocolate milk every day isn't healthy? Is that what
But
you're
you
saying?
have that brown biscuit that they also put
And the
on.
canned salty corn, yeah. No, I mean, and you eat that, like, it just think about like habits, like, and I have a ways to go, I think, but I just like where my diet's at now. I'm pretty pleased with my progress and like the quality of food I'm eating. But when you go elementary school, middle school, and even high school, maybe you start getting a little more conscious, but it's still like when you're 14, I don't know if diet is top of mind.
Right.
Uh, you build these habits that are kind of challenging to break because you get addicted to these things like chocolate milk and these juices and things like that. So like it makes sense by the time people are in their 20s and 30s they gain all this fucking weight and like we're creating really bad habits diet wise for so many people in this country. And so this is where I may lean more progressive, and like Michelle Obama was right, even though she got shit on by conservatives. Our school lunches do need to be healthier. I know I watched this documentary about in France, they went to this school that all the food is made in house daily. They have real utensils like actual plates and like metal silverware, and they only drink water. And the kids have to like pour the water for like the kid next to them starting in kindergarten. I mean, it's like it's night and day to compared to what we have here.
I think that's a great point, Jeremy. Early on, there's no focus on for kids. What's the message we're sending them early on? Every single day at lunch, the message is a styrofoam plate, pizza, a roll, basically slop, brown slop. We're starving their brains of the fats they need from avocados and peanut butter and other fats, fish that their brains need. We're filling them with just carbs, horrible fats, horrible proteins. And then now in the 20s, 30s, 40s, you see diabetes an epidemic, anxiety, depression, suicide, a lot of health issues. And yet, I think from the very beginning, we should be, all of us, parents, business leaders, Michelle Obama, politicians, everybody should be leading an example of how do we create healthy foods that are nutrient dense and taste good for kids, because we know those habits carry on. They carry on to their children and their children and their children.
Yeah.
We're doing them such a disservice. And for me, when I had lunch with my son Connor, who you met, and you saw he was a kind, brilliant young man that ate healthy, but he also ate fast food. He loved Taco Bell. He
Yeah.
loved fast food. And I think, all of us, none of us are perfect eating, but if we strive from the time they're in kindergarten and teach them these good eating habits and food habits and ingredient habits, it makes such a difference in their overall life because there's absolutely no question. The science is irrefutable on that. The difference good foods, fruits, vegetables, spices, good fats make in our body and mind versus, to your point, what they're doing in another country versus ours, or pilot programs that
Yeah,
are the same results. So that's
absolutely.
the reason I created my first brand. Um, One was to show kids and adults that gummy bears with ginger and kale and broccoli and flaxseed can taste good. But also, we did a lot of education we educated about every single ingredient and how you can incorporate that into your diet. And part of our goal was that, a lot of kids, when we started, a lot of kids and adults had never eaten okra. And okra is a very mucigenous vegetable that helps protect your digestive lining, has a ton of vitamins and minerals in it, very good for you. And our goal was that if they saw okra in a gummy bear, then maybe the next step is they grow okra in a garden or they buy okra. And that actually happened. We received letters where kids and adults were trying fruits and vegetables and spices like turmeric and others that they'd never tried before. So I think we have an absolute responsibility as a society and as parents and as business leaders to create foods and products that help our kids and help adults with their immune system, with their body, their health, and overall wellness.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm hopeful that we can start making some major transitions and really just start focusing on health the best we can. And I think ultimately it comes from individual responsibility, which I do feel we're shifting in the right way. I feel like I'm gonna feed my kids different food than what my parents fed me, not because there was malicious intent. It was just maybe just lack of education. Like it was normal to buy Capri Suns and Lunchables and pizza rolls.
Yeah, you remember Capri Suns.
Yeah, Capri Suns were the legit. I think the watermelon ones were my favorite. The cherry were kind of gross.
Connor had Capri Suns.
Yeah.
But Jeremy, you hit it. I am very hopeful too, and I know everybody knocks the millennials, and I'm not sure what group you're with, and your group and the younger generations, but I've seen a huge movement driven by demand of millennials and people your age group that want cleaner products. You know, when I started 20 years ago in the health food industry, people weren't talking really mainstream about pesticide free. People weren't talking mainstream about non GMO. People weren't talking about plant based. We came out with mushrooms, a group of mushrooms, and everybody, had no idea about that, or turmeric now, or holy basil. So people weren't talking about making things without high fructose corn syrup and dyes and colorings. But the millennials in your age, and now I also see, moms and dads and aunts and uncles, they're demanding that they want to know where the food came from, where the ingredients come from, and what's in there. So I'm very hopeful that we're moving in the right direction for our next generation.
Yeah, and I am a millennial, so but I agree. I mean, people are caring.
Thank you for driving the change, Jeremy.
Yeah, it all starts with me. I'll take complete responsibility. No, I'm just kidding. So I want to take a little bit of a shift and something we were talking before we went live. Something I've wanted to ask you about before, but it's honestly I've been curious. I just been kind of like scared, and I didn't know like necessarily how to approach it. And I know, and we you referenced it with like lockdowns too. Mental health. I mean, again, I see a therapist. I have coach. Mental health is my number two core value. Mental and physical health is a big fucking deal. And I saw some study recently that during 2020, one out of every four 18 to 24-year-olds contemplated suicide because of the lockdowns, because of not being able to socialize with friends, being able to live their lives. And we just talk about like there's so many like there's a domino effect of a lot of shit going on, and mental health is that's maybe the biggest epidemic of our like generation. I mean, I can tell you I've had to work through major things myself personally. I still have to work through things. Relationships have been a major challenge because of it. But I'd love to, you know, I know you experienced some big challenges in that area with Connor. Do you mind sharing a little bit about that?
Not at all, Jeremy. And I just read some of those same studies where, these lockdowns, um, the anxiety and depression and suicide among young people is skyrocketing. I mean, it's at an epidemic level. Um, Suicides among um, our military, I think 22 a day or something, which is an insane number that we're losing so many people. Um, I don't, so I'll preface this conversation. I don't know what we can do about mental health, but there are a couple things I think we can all do every day. And that is we can hug and love the people we're with and we're around every day. And we can work hard to remove the shame of that being looked at as a weakness. When I got cancer, was surrounded by the best doctors and support and kindness and love. And, when somebody is suffering from depression or anxiety or suicide, many times they're looked at as what's wrong with you? Why are you weak? Why can't you snap out of it? Um, and, they have no more ability to change that chemistry in their brain than I did of doing the surgery on my cancer and curing that myself, or what I feel heart disease or arthritis or others. So you met Connor on the day you and Maxwell and I and a group of people.
We
You,
went to the Columbia restaurant, I remember,
Columbia.
in celebration. Yep.
Yes. And I told him, where we have a huge opportunity to partner with a group of amazing people. So, dress up in a suit. And, I messed with him a little bit. So you saw he was dressed really nice in a suit. And I was wearing, a Christmas sweater and pants. And I think you came in shorts, comfortable, relaxed. And he was the only guy with a suit. Afterwards, like, come on, Dad. So, but you met him, a kind, articulate. He was an MMA fighter. He wrestled. He also, Connor was on the debate team. He was in band. He really kind of a renaissance man, athlete, athletic, and academics. Um, he played football. Um, and what you saw that day was what you got with Connor, who he is as a human being. So, he ate healthy for the most part. I'm not sure if it was CTI or if, he had struggled with CTE, sorry. If he had struggled with depression, anxiety, there were a little bit in the past. And, as a father, I don't know sometimes if, I handled depression or anxiety properly. I didn't know enough about it at the time. If I can share with you, I think a week before he passed away, um, he said, Dad and Mom, you'll be okay without me. And we immediately knew something wasn't right. And we got him into counseling. And he saw a counselor Monday, January 29th. And it went really well. Came home, being happy. And then the next day, Tuesday, January 30th, he passed away. And I can tell you, there's no possible way to articulate losing a child, losing someone to suicide, losing your best friend, losing a beautiful human being. At his funeral, Jeremy, my wife and I felt like we were utter failures. You know, how do you lose your son? How do you lose a loved one on your watch? And so his funeral was in Maitland, and my wife and I were going to shake everybody's hand that came to the funeral. And we stood for 2.5 hours shaking hands. And the funeral home director came up, he was probably 70. He said, I've never seen anything like this. We're going to have to stop greeting people. There's a line down 1792 for a mile, 4 deep. And he's like, we've never seen anything like this. And I'm not being braggadocious. I'm just sharing that everyone who shook our hand and everyone who showed up to a T said he was the kindest human being they'd ever met. There was a lady who showed up. He was a server at Santiago's Bodega. He was busing while he was going to college at Santiago's Bodega. He was very humble. He went from doing presentations to Publix and Wegmans and other places to busing and working his way up to be a server. He overheard a lady who didn't have anybody to help her put up plywood for a hurricane coming. Connor volunteered to do it. A friend from the 6th grade came and said, a lot of people made fun of me. Connor and I were in band together. He never made fun of me. He was my only friend. His kindergarten teacher came. We met so many people, and we didn't even know the kindness that he had gone out to the world and shared. I know there are people that can be like, Richie Mcpeak's an asshole. Let's be honest, But to a T, every one of them said that Connor made a difference in his life. And one of the most moving things was the dishwasher from Santiago's Bodega, who was from China. He worked 5 jobs, incredibly intelligent man. He was older, he was retired, he just wanted to work. He was teaching Connor Mandarin, and him and Connor would eat hot pot the guy would make, every night in an old bucket and throw in all the scraps and make hot pot. And the whole entire restaurant came dressed. And this specific man said Connor was one of the most humble, kind human beings I've ever met. Even though I was a dishwasher, he treated me like the general manager. And the general manager was there. His wrestling team, there was a young man who wanted to quit wrestling in the 9th grade. And Connor was a captain and said, you can make it. We can do this together. And he ended up becoming a team captain and stayed in wrestling because of Connor. And the whole team came and put his jacket in his coffin. But what I realized then, Jeremy, people say if someone's depressed or anxiety or suicide, then maybe they have a drug problem, they have an alcohol problem, they're weak, what's wrong with them? Connor wasn't perfect. But here is a human being who was kind, who I saw him wrestle 5 matches with a dislocated shoulder and a torn labrum and got 3rd place. I saw him MMA. I saw him have the discipline to ace the Florida FCAT when he was in the 4th or 5th grade. He got a 32 on the ACT out of 36. I'm not being braggadocious. I'm just saying here's a human being that academically and physically was one of the most disciplined people I had ever met. And yet this disease took over and there was nothing he could do. So I share that suicide is not shame. Anxiety and depression is not weakness. I believe it is a disease or a buildup from circumstances in our life or triggers that temporarily or permanently can incapacitate us. And it's our job as a people to recognize this and see how we can save more people like Connor, more people like veterans, young people, more people like you, and how we can uplift them and help them work through depression and anxiety and thoughts of suicide. One of the things we're doing in his honor, and I hope you and I can partner on this, we're going to create a foundation called Connor's Hugs. I hugged him for 10 seconds the last time I saw him. And we're going to create a network of providers, starting with the woman he saw and someone our daughter went to who recommended high amounts of vitamin D and B vitamins. And we want to create revenue to pay these providers to have people come in and see them that can't afford to go to counseling or get medicine. You know, one of the last things Connor said to us was, you know, he was feeling incredibly depressed, and he's like, but he didn't have insurance, so he's like, I don't want the burden of you guys paying for counseling if I need medicine. And I said, oh, listen, it would be the same thing if you had diabetes. We would pay for your insulin, or you would, or we'd figure out. Or if you had heart disease or cancer. So I think a lot of these, first of all, I think mental health prevention and access to mental health care should be available to everyone. And especially people who are suffering from anxiety and depression and thoughts of suicide. They should feel comfortable. We have to get through that this is not shame, and how we can help them instead of thinking that something's wrong with them.
Yeah. Well, very grateful that you shared all that. Thank you. And I agree completely with mental health being like something you could argue it's more important than physical health. Not that physical health isn't important, but if your brain's not in a good spot, like what
Yes.
else matters, right?
Yeah.
I love the idea of that type of nonprofit because it's something that I am extremely passionate about. And I agree with you. Sadly, there's a negative connotation when it comes to people sharing they're having issues. And I actually view that as a sign of strength, not a sign of
Yeah.
weakness. If you're strong enough to be vulnerable and say, I'm feeling down, I'm feeling depressed, I'm not feeling myself, I think that's 1,000 times stronger than the people that just go through life pretending like everything's okay, but they're afraid to share because of judgment or whatever. Like we should be encouraged to share with our close friends and family stuff that's going on in our life. That should be no different than other conversation we have. Like, you know, how's your work? You know, what'd you eat for dinner? Where's your mental health? I mean, that's like
Yes.
that. It should be a normal conversation. So, uh, I agree completely there. I've definitely had some really really deep dark thoughts over the years. I one thing that happens to me, and a lot of it's to do with like childhood and stuff. I have some major codependency tendencies in like relationships, and like it's like devastating for me at times when I've gotten out of romantic relationships because I was just so codependent on them for energy and motivation and like almost like living. Like it's crazy, it's super unhealthy. And then when that ends, when that's like cut off, it's just like a vital like blood to an organ. It's just like it's a disaster. And fortunately I've been in a spot to have good mentors and friends and mental health professionals to talk through. But I can't, like I can't like there's just some tricky things going on with our brain, and some like when we're not in a good spot, like it's it can be a really scary place, you
I
know?
agree. I agree. And I think to your point, mental wellness is the best thing we can do for our bodies and each other.
Yeah.
Uh, because I think that's one of the, I truly didn't understand a lot of darkness until, I went through some of these challenges with cancer and being isolated with my first surgery for 10 weeks. I was on a couch with a huge brace on and I couldn't move. And I just felt so isolated and alone, even though my family was right there. And I
Yeah.
really kind of started understanding what isolation and loneliness does to you. And then loss of moving. I was traveling, I was socializing, I was seeing people, and what that does to you. And I think it's interesting, the fact that you recognize the things that affect you in relationships. And I recognized that I kind of tied my worth to the success of what I was doing with a company or the success of what I was doing with a business or at work. There wasn't a lot of sales and commission. So then when you see that, you know, your value of what you see yourself as is no longer there, that's an incredible mental struggle when that ends,
Yeah.
like a relationship. And so, I learned a lot, and I think the only thing, from all of this, once some of the clouds cleared, it's a healing process every moment, the loss of Connor. But he may have been the single most kind, humble, serving person I ever met, and a lot of people, thousands, said the same thing. That we want to try to carry on his legacy. And I don't know if we can save anybody. I don't know if we can help anybody, but we're going to try. And I believe we can do that by giving people the opportunity that might not be able to afford to go to counseling or see a doctor or get medicine. And simply just giving them a hug from Connor, um, and letting them know that it's something you don't have to be ashamed of.
Yeah. What would you say to people that have children or close loved ones that are dealing with somebody that is going through, some deep mental health challenges? Is there any thoughts or anything you would share with somebody that's, dealing with children or close relatives or friends that are going through some challenging places mentally?
I would say if you're able to hug them every day, listen to them, really listen to them, not just what you want to hear or what they need to tell you. Be patient. And I would say if you lose them, forgive yourself. The only thing that I know, I loved him. I love him with everything I have. And I second guess everything sometimes, but then I reframe that I try to love him the best that I can, and he loved me the best that he could. And, you know, it really comes down to all we have is time with them. So whatever your time is with that loved one or young person or friend, spend quality time with them, even if it's just a 10-second hug.
No, that's really good. It's really, really good. Um, has your has your perspective on how you live life or how you view the world uh, shifted at all uh, over the last few years?
It has. It, you know, probably as an entrepreneur and I think a leader and a human being that I've seen you be. You know, we set these goals and accomplishments and finish lines that we want to reach. And sometimes they're close and sometimes they're really far. And we want to do these things, travel and see people and interact. And what life has come down to for me is every moment is a lifetime. Every moment is a lifetime. That's actually a conversation, one of my last conversations I had with Connor. And by that perspective is, you know, in 2014, the moment before I knew I got cancer, my life was completely different. And also, in 2006, when Publix brought in my first product, my life was completely different from one single moment to the next. The hug that I gave Connor, and then the moment I lost him, my life was completely different. So now I gauge life in moments only. We can look really far out, and we all do, and we can set accomplishments and goals, but really, the moment we're in is the only moment we have. The one before that's gone, and we don't know what the next moment is. So I truly try to say, you know, every moment's a lifetime, and every step is a finish line. You know, we all look at, you know, a 5K. At the end of the 5K is the finish line, but I look at it every step you're taking along that 5K, or, you know, every step you took to create your podcast and book people and listen to people and share your thoughts and ideas. Every single step, every single moment is a finish line. And people think, you know, along the way they fail. So right now your podcast's not 100 million people, right? I don't know what the numbers are, but if today or right now you get one more person, that's a finish line. Right now we're completing a finish line.
Yeah.
You know, when I went to Publix, I remember I took 10 products and I wanted all 10 products. And when I only got one, I walked out of there and I'm like, I'm a complete failure. I wanted 10 and I only got one. And now I realize, looking back, that one single product was a finish line and led to greater things. So that's how I view life now. In the good times, celebrations, and in the difficult times. Every moment's a lifetime and every step is a finish line.
Yeah, I like that a lot. My friend Dave always says, if you're going to be there, be there. That's just like his recommendation for living life. If you're going to be there, be there. And how myself included, you know, how often are we in moments and doing things and we're not even truly there. We're not even present with the people that we want to be with because we're thinking about other stuff. We're on our phones. We're not even truly there, you know?
That's a great point, Jeremy. Your friend Dave's a wise guy. My daughter, Sydney, who's 17, you know, I wanted to help change the world by educating about fruits and vegetables and spices and organic gummy bears. And in the summer, we would go hiking in North Carolina. We travel different places. And I coached her in flag football and different things. But she said to me about a year ago, she's like, I said, what are some of the best memories you have of your childhood? You know, and what are your goals and some bucket lists? And she shared a couple of memories, but she said one of my biggest memories was you were always on your phone, Dad. You were always on your phone. I was always working, always
Wow.
the next store or the next product. And we created a global brand. We were in Publix, Wegmans, HEB, health food stores, the first certified organic gummy supplement. But what does any of that really matter that my daughter said one of the biggest things I remember was you were always on your phone, Dad. And so that hit me that every moment's a lifetime. Be in that moment. So your friend Dave has it right on. Gonna be there, be there.
Yeah. No, I mean that's good she shared that with you though, because that's how we gain awareness. Like my father who's, how old is my dad now? He's almost 60. I feel like every time we go out to dinner lately, he's like on his phone the whole time. I like, Dad, what the fuck are you doing?
Right.
Like, and I like get mad. I'm like, that's probably not the best approach for me. I probably need to just share how it makes me feel. Like, it doesn't make me feel like he values the time and that he's paying attention to me, which is how my therapist would advise that I share.
Right.
But I just do it in my like, Dad, what the fuck are you doing? Like, get
Yeah.
off your phone. Like, can you do this any other time besides lunch? Like,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean,
That's my son Troy. He's
yeah,
like, Dad, what the fuck are you doing? Get off your phone. My daughter Sydney is so much more kind, but he responds the same way. But I try now. I really a life work balance and a time balance, a moment balance. If we're gonna go somewhere, walking on the trail, I put the phone away and we talk and I listen to them. I thought, you know, we worked really, really hard, sacrificed everything. And in 2008, got a great deal and went to Hawaii. And I thought spending 5 days in Hawaii with the family, is what they really wanted. But what it came down to was just time with you and not be on the phone all the time.
yeah. Have you seen the movie RV with Robin Williams?
No, but I love
It
them.
just got added to Netflix. It's like 2006,
Really?
but he cancels last minute because of something work related, and they end up like enjoying like I don't want to ruin the movie, but they end up like enjoying the trip because it ends up being quality stupid time in an RV, and they're like, this is much better than Hawaii would have been.
Yeah. We kind of did something similar when I got out from my first limb salvage surgery. We just 17 days out west spontaneously drove through there just laughing, having fun, stopping at different national parks, four-squaring restaurants. We went to the Cosmo in Las Vegas. We saw the McGregor fight. Connor, it was when he was going to fight Aldo, but he ended up fighting Mendez. And my boys got me down there in a walker. We had great seats. And the energy throughout the MGM when McGregor was fighting Mendez and came back was amazing. But we ended up staying at the Cosmo. Everybody loved it. And then the next day we drove to Zion in Utah at the top of this place called the Ponderosa. And we had done everything spontaneously and found hotel rooms, but they said, we only have an open wagon. And it was like 55 degrees. We went from 110 to 55. Or a one-bedroom little cabin. And there was 5 of us. So we chose the one-bedroom cabin. We forgot to get food. And there was a little store closing. We got, speak about healthy eating. We got Pringles, hot dogs, and Dr. Peppers. And we grilled the hot dogs on a little grill at the top of Zion National Park under the skies. And we set up the whole trip of all the places we stayed, all the things we did, just standing under the stars and skies, smelling the pine trees and a little barbecue grill with hot dogs and Pringles was the most beautiful time of our trip.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. Were they original Pringles or like
They
flavored?
were original.
Oh man, I don't know. I don't. I feel like if they were like the cheddar kind was always good, right?
I'm a sour cream and onion
Oh
guy.
yeah, those are good too.
Yeah.
Hey,
And something along the lines of the RV. Have you seen Expedition Happiness?
no, I haven't.
Watch that. That is a couple from Germany who go to North Carolina and rebuild a school bus and make it into this incredible RV. It's a documentary. And they travel from North Carolina through Canada. They go down the PCH and into South America. And the adventure they have is unbelievable. And just getting away from the stress and hustle of life and business and just enjoying the moments and the views. It's an incredible show. I highly recommend it. Our whole family watched it. Expedition Happiness.
I just wrote that down, so that does sound good.
Makes you smile.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
um, I was gonna just. It was on my mind. I thought about chips. I was like, only weirdos eat regular Lay's. Do you know anybody that eats a regular Lay's? Like their most salty, basic chip. Do you
Well,
eat them? Hopefully you don't eat them. I'm talking shit.
no, that's all they had up in the mountains.
No, no, no. I know, but I just started thinking about who eats those regular Lay's in the yellow bag. Does like I those are the last chips. I mean, if it was like there could be like the cheap restaurant tortilla chips left on on the shelf and regular Lay's, and I'd probably just like I would go with any chip over regular Lay's.
That is interesting. Oh, that's the last one always left on the shelf.
Who eats regular Lay's? Like, how are they selling so like? And who drinks Pepsi? Like, that's what I like. Who drinks regular Pepsi and who eats regular Lay's? Those are huge businesses. I just don't know anybody that consumes those products.
The real question is, how did Diet Tab only, I think, just get discontinued in 2020? Who is still drinking Diet Tabs?
I don't even diet what? I don't even know
Check it out. Google it sometime. Diet Tab. Tab.
huh.
It might be the worst diet soft drink ever made in humankind, and somehow it was really big in the 70s and 80s. I only remember it because my stepdad had this brilliant idea that we were going to mow lawns, and he's going to become a millionaire, setting up a lawn business. So we got two push mowers and one rider mower, and I grew up over on the west coast of Florida, sand everywhere, just horrible yards to mow. And one of the ladies, we mowed her lawn. We had to, as a payment, she gave us Diet Tabs and these stale ginger cookies. So we're going through heat strokes. Me and my brother are dehydrated. We want something to drink and eat. And the only thing we get are Diet Tabs and stale ginger cookies as a payment. So when you look up Diet Tab, hopefully I'll find one and send it to you. Imagine drinking that after you've been mowing lawns for 12 hours outside.
Yeah, it's like I'm thinking of Wolf of Wall Street. They have like the lewds from the 70s. Remember?
Yes.
There, it was like they're like 15-year-old drugs, and it gave them like that crazy high.
Yeah.
So like the last thing I wanted to talk to you about is just kind of what you're up to in business lately. I know you have an exciting new project. I know you've had a lot of success over the years with being one of the first gummies, and scaling that business into tons of retailers across the country. What are you up to now with your new project?
Really listening to consumers. And most of them are women who are driving our industry, who want healthier products and ingredients for their families and each other. And most of them said they didn't want to take a lot of pills. They want things that taste good, and they want them to be pesticide-free and plant-based. And then I had an opportunity to go on with some iconic brands and learn under some incredible leaders. And then, as I alluded to earlier, was having lunch with my son Connor, when he was in kindergarten, and saw all the junk kids were eating. And we really wanted to create something that was healthy, nutrient dense, and delicious. So we made the first gummy supplement with certified organic plant-based vitamins and minerals. We ended up being fortunate enough to go into Publix, H-E-B, Wegmans, thousands of health food stores, e-commerce online. And I think we grew through soul-to-soul marketing, what I call just people sharing with each other their positive experience with that. And so, that's always been our foundation: plant-based, pesticide-free, something that tastes good, that's also good for your immune system, healthy for your brain and your body. So we built that brand for 13 plus years and exited that in 2017. And so I've been working on a project with some of the leaders from iconic brands in the past, an incredible food scientist and flavor scientist, and our suppliers and manufacturers that we have partnered with in the past. And we're about to launch a really exciting, ready-to-go drink powder called Defense 360. And, excuse me, we have an all-day that you can take all day, all night, anytime, and we have a sleep version. And there's some really key differences with these products. Number one, they taste delicious. Secondly, there's 0 grams of sugar in either one. And I think you've tasted them. They taste absolutely delicious.
It tastes great. Yeah.
Thank you, Jeremy. And then we also put them in single serving packs, really to go beyond convenience, but now talking about the health of the end user, where you can wash your hands or sanitize them, open a packet, pour it in any liquid, and then throw it away, and you don't handle it again, both you and your family members, or at a retail level, to try to reduce, some of the issues that we're facing today in the world. We also make it not just, quote, immune, but overall wellness with the immune. And those are some of the things we talked about earlier. For instance, our all day, we add in organic holy basil, which helps with reducing stress and cortisol, because we know what stress can do to us. We add in ginger, organic ginger and turmeric as an anti-inflammatory and to help with your gut. We have probiotics in there that, again, the gut-brain connection is so strong and beneficial bacteria. And then we have in additionally vitamin D, vitamin C from acerola cherries instead of a synthetic. We have zinc. So really nice complementary blend that goes beyond immune. And then for the nighttime, the sleep, we've had rave reviews. Because again, the lack of sleep and anxiety and stress affects every part of our body.
Yeah.
So a beautiful blend of chamomile and passion flower and lemon balm. And then our food science has only added 1 milligram of melatonin, and that's for a reason. We know melatonin can sometimes make you feel a little groggy in the mornings and affect you. We put in a milligram as a microdosing form because a lot of studies are showing now that melatonin boosts your immune system. There's a significant amount found in your gut, and there's some recent studies that have really shown how it can improve your immune system, but also your sleep, so that you don't wake up feeling groggy, and when you take it, you just don't knock out. Then we also, again, have vitamin D and zinc and other ingredients for your digestive tract, for anti-inflammatory. So we're really proud of these two signature and immune wellness products that are 0 grams of sugar. They taste delicious. You can take them on the go anywhere. And we're going to be donating to frontline service work, to nurses and doctors. We also want to donate to the military because there's also a lot of ingredients in there that can help with anxiety and stress and overall wellness. One of the things when I was going through COVID, I was listening to the nurses who were absolutely overwhelmed, and the doctors, and they had the same concerns we did with COVID spreading, and also they're exhausted. They didn't have proper rest. So all of the things that they're facing, or nutrients on the go. So I really want to try to donate to nurses and doctors and people on the front line trying to keep us all healthy with these products.
That's awesome, man. And yeah, the products I had, the Defense, was pretty tasty, especially since it is a product that's good for you. There's not too many things that are
Right.
good for you that are actually taste decent. So that's good.
Yeah.
I had it in the afternoon yesterday. I have meals delivered, so I had like a meal prep. I think I was eating like a turkey meatloaf one I had. So it's like a turkey meatloaf with Defense 360.
So we'll pair that in the future. Turkey meatloaf with the Prince
Yeah, it was like instead of a wine pairing, it was just like a supplement cocktail pairing.
Very nice.
Yeah,
Well, it also goes well. I've tried it with vodka and whiskey, especially the sleep. If you want a little nightcap, sprinkle that in whiskey or vodka or gin. A nice little martini.
like with any other mixer besides that, or just like a little bit of like it in the vodka. Do you add water, or what's the secret?
I just put that straight in as the mixer. So you have a sugar-free mixer that tastes delicious. It's a blueberry lavender. So if you put it in vodka and add a little bit, it's like a blueberry lavender martini. I put about a half a pack in there. So you're getting, your lemon balm and chamomile and passion flower along with a nice little vodka or whatever your drinking choice.
That's a trend right now. I saw there's a big, you may know better than me. It's obviously those, what are those called? Like the spritzers, like White Claw and stuff are doing very well.
Right.
There's one that just launched with like all these vitamins, which is actually a really good angle. I think that's a big market opportunity there.
Yeah, I agree. I just saw that one. It has vitamin C. The first one they launched, it's a spritzer with vitamin C. So, I think that's where a lot of things are moving based on what I've seen the last 20 years is functionality to what we eat and drink. And the baseline, everybody says, well, we don't have this. We don't have high fructose corn syrup and dyes and colors. But I think we should move beyond that conversation. Nothing should have those. And the baseline conversation of the future should be, to your point, well, our drink has vitamin C and D and zinc in it, or ginger and turmeric, or our foods, or our snacks, so that everything is becoming functional for our immune system, our wellness, our brain. And I'm really starting to see a movement in the industry with that.
Yeah. So we're recording in December right now. So would you say it's going to be going live January of 2021 and be ready for sale?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. In fact, I'll send you the link. The site should be live tomorrow. And then we want to, I'm checking with our manufacturer, and we should be able to start taking pre-orders in the next week or two.
Awesome, man. That's exciting. And all the details will be in the show notes. If you're listening on your podcast player, you'll be able to view that there. What's the domain name, just in case, though?
McPeakmarket.com.
McPeakmarket.com. Awesome, man. And what goals do you have for 2021 with this new company?
Our goal is to put a smile on people's faces and support doctors and nurses in the military and grow one packet, one consumer at a time, soul-to-soul marketing. If people feel like there's value in our products, we have made a difference in their lives and trying to make a difference in the community.
That's awesome, man. Well, looking forward to chatting with you more. We're gonna end the episode right there. But thanks for coming on today, man.
Jeremy, it's been fun and an honor to be on Openly Outspoken with Jeremy Adams. So thank you, bro. And I really appreciate our friendship and the authenticity we have between each other.
Likewise. Thanks, man.
Thank you for listening to Openly Outspoken with Jeremy Adams. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast player so you get updated when new episodes are live. If you enjoyed this episode, the best way to support is to leave a 5-star review and share the podcast with people in your life that you feel would benefit from these types of discussions. Visit openlyoutspoken.com for additional details on the show. Find out how to connect with Jeremy on social media and learn more information about Jeremy's personal and business life. We'll see you next time.